everybody, my name is Margaret. Welcome to my channel. You're on BookTube, and thanks for stopping by. This is going to go up on the 9th, I think, and that means that Historathon 2.5 is almost over. I was inspired by these channels who really love historical fiction that are doing a readathon that ends tomorrow, unfortunately, but because of my posting schedule, I do the TBR, the productivity sprint, and the wrap-up. And so this is the first time that I have available to put in an original tag that I want to offer up to the people who love historical fiction. So I may have been guilty of saying, that's not my era, I'm really not into that, and such things. And this tag is to just maybe like shake you a little loose and get you interested in something that you may want to try in terms of different historical fiction eras. So this is Where in History Do You Belong? Let's just call it that. And it's a tag, but a quiz. It's more like a quiz, but let's call it an original tag that's a quiz. And I'm gonna give you 5 questions with some answers, and you'll count which answers you get the most of, and that is where you should think about time traveling to, or think about reading a book set in that place and time. I had a little time to spend, and I thought I'd check out some basic details of eras and settings that I'm not familiar with, just to sort of throw that out there for you too. So I learned a bit doing my rootling around researching, and hopefully can pass that on to you along with a little bit of interest in a new era. Question number 1. Choose a favorite color of the following groups. Answer 1 is yellow, red, and blue. Answer 2 is gold and ivory. Answer 3 is crimson, brown, and blue. And answer 4 is black, blue, red, green. So I'll put these up so you can look. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So I guess do A, B, C, D, and we'll see how many of each letter you get by the end. Question number 2. Choose your weapon. I see videos where people do this, like they're the players that you choose in a video game, so in case you don't know what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. Choose your weapon. Either A, bow and horse, B, spear, C, sword and shield, and D, club. So I'll put those up as well. A, B, C, or D. Pick your poison. That's not on the list. Question 3. What's your favorite food? Answer A is rice, sweet potatoes, and duck. Answer B is beef, fruit, and millet. Answer C is beef and barley. Answer D is smelt, camas root, and berries. Some interesting combos for those foodies among you. So pick A, B, C, or D. Question 4, choose your clothing. Answer A is a long robe and a wrap skirt. Answer B is cotton and baobab bark cloth. Interpret that as you will. Answer C is a linen tunic, belt, and wool cloak. And answer D is cedar bark cloth. So cool, right? So those are your answers, A, B, C, or D. And final question, choose your animal companion. This is a fun one. Answer A is horse. Answer B is a cow. Answer C is a hound. And answer D is a woolly dog. Interpret that as you will, a woolly dog. So those are the answers for our final question, number 5. And go ahead and count which one you have the most of. And here are the eras that you might want to time travel to. Where in history do you belong? If you chose the most A's, you belong in 17th century China with the Qing dynasty. Yellow was the emperor's color, but they also used a lot of red and blue. They fought from the back of the horse with bows and arrows. They had lots of food to choose from, including duck and sweet potatoes and rice, as the one I chose. They typically wore a long robe, and men and women both wore wrap skirts. And they had horses. So there you go, 17th century Qing Dynasty China. If you went with answer B, you chose 15th century Nigeria. So I was intrigued by the comment that Wakanda was based on a 15th century Nigerian empire. Wakanda forever! The Mutapa Empire, based in Nigeria. So, and I looked up these choices for that empire in the 15th century. Pretty cool. So they were rich in mining minerals, so they had lots of gold and ivory, and that was both like money exchange as well as wealth. They fought with spears as their primary weapons. They had lots of meats to choose from. They kept cattle, and that was also a source of wealth. They also had sheep and goats that they shepherded. They had plenty of wild fruits, as well as harvesting millet and sorghum. So I chose a few of those to make up a meal. Clothing, so they also farmed cotton in the Mutapa Empire. And if you know what the baobab tree looks like, I'll put a picture up here. They're kind of iconic. They would use their bark to make cloth, kind of like we do with linen from... linen plant? I can't remember what the linen plant is called. It's something different. Anyway, they're stalks. And you have to process them and rot them and then tie them together. Anyway. So yeah, so baobab bark. Very cool, huh? And animal companion, trusty cow. Our third option, so if you had C's as your main answer, would be Middle Ages, early Celts. And this is very mushy. There's a lot of different things, but I'm putting all my sources in the bottom below, so you can see how I got a bit of a scattershot thing from different sources to try to check the validity. But again, this is just this tag. This is not high quality research. This is just trying to learn a little bit about different cultures. And for the Celts, we have lots of early dye research. I have a fantastic costume research that talked about crimson and browns and purples and blues that they got from native plants to British areas, even though the early Celts were in a lot bigger area all across Middle Europe before they were chased west. And for the food, for the weapons, we went with a sword and shield. You've often seen the targe that Celts had and the sword, so that seemed pretty easy for me. Beef and barley, I mean, I still love barley, so obviously that's in my blood. And for clothing, they had a linen tunic, as I was just talking about linen, and a belt and a wool cloak, because if you know, it gets damp in those Celtic areas, so that would have been very useful. And the hound. You've probably seen representations of the Celtic hound in art in Ireland, and that was a totem for the Celts, so I thought that'd be neat as an animal companion. And finally, if you got mostly D answers, you should time travel to the 19th century Inuit culture to explore. So I looked up the colors, and if you look at these really iconic Inuit art that is currently on a stamp that is not available anywhere in Portland to buy for love or money, those were typically traced in black, red, green, and blue. And this is like known for a long time, the colors that they had to paint with, which is really cool. The weapons that they would have used for food capture as well as defending themselves would have been the club, first and foremost, and I have a museum reference down here. The food was super exciting. I've watched a few videos about camas root cultivation because it's native to the Pacific Northwest, and there was a whole system they had for harvesting and foraging and processing to be able to eat in different ways and save up those resources for the winter and spring when it was hard to find other food, which is really cool. Of course, we know that salmon were important to the Pacific Northwest natives, as well as smelt and gathering wild berries. And I've read a couple novels that actually talk, maybe one I'll point to, that was extensively talking about wild berry gathering, and I'll put that up here as a recommendation. It was a good novel. For clothing, we have cedar bark cloth, which is like blows my mind, just like baobab bark. You take the bark of a tree and process it so that you can weave it. I was like, that's so cool. So cedar, native to the area, and one of the resources they would have learned to live with over thousands of years. And then finally, I think the most fascinating tidbit of this whole quiz, the woolly dog. So they didn't have sheep here, but you know what the Inuit managed to use for soft fibers? Woolly dogs, like little fluffy white dogs. I'll put a picture up here. And what the article that I found says is that they didn't keep them penned, but they kept them on an island, kind of like the Scots did with sheep. And they would visit them, comb them, have like a session of like the grooming where they would get all their fibers, stuff it into a bag, come back and like weave it and everything that you would think of with a normal fiber, like from sheep. I thought that was so cool. They've got a couple pictures, but not much evidence remains of this practice, and I don't know that it's been retained, but there's some evidence, and I just thought that was really cool. So 19th century and before Inuits in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, that was my little spot of research rabbit hole to inject into your Historathon 2.5. Thank you to Lindsay's Little Library and the Curly Reader for inspiring me to get a little out of my historical comfort zone and research a bit about the ways of life of these different cultures. I hope you pick up a different book and enjoy it. So tell me what you got down below and whether you think you'll find something and follow it up, because then I'll know I did my part to spread historical fiction love on the BookTube. So that's all I got for today, and yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like this was fun and you want to reward my going down that rabbit hole. Read outside your comfort zone. That's all I can recommend. And taste life twice, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!